Hello, folks. We're going to talk today about sketch constraints and how to be a little faster and more efficient with your sketching in Fusion 360. So you should have gotten this file downloaded and then uploaded probably into your practice project or practice folder. And we're going to work on a few little things. Let's talk about a concept first before we get started with this. I'm going to come over here to a fresh spot. You don't have to do this. Just to show you, if I make a line, what often happens is see that little blue icon that shows up just below that line? Fusion 360 will make constraints for you a lot. That means that it's making that line horizontal. So even though I haven't defined the length, it's horizontal. If I make another line and I go close to, you'll see that right angle show up, which means it's making that second line perpendicular to the first line, and so on and so forth. So a lot of times you will get those constraints without even knowing that you're making them. But sometimes we want to make constraints. So we're going to go through this and do a few things. First of all, zoom in a little bit here so you can see what we're doing. We'll kind of work from reading style, left to right, top to bottom. So here we go. We're going to make, first of all, these three lines to be vertical. So in your toolbar up here is you have constraints. Now, depending on what size screen you have, you might need to drop down from here. And it's got horizontal and vertical. So we're going to click on that. Remember, blue means that we're doing that command, and click on those lines. Now this looks horizontal, but it might not be. So we're going to click on it anyway. And then we're going to come to these three lines, and we want to make these, sorry, I keep saying vertical when I mean horizontal, and horizontal when I mean vertical. We're going to make these three horizontal. So again, click on that sketch, start here, horizontal, horizontal. Now, I purposely made this one a problem. Whoops, made it vertical. That's because I'm going to undo that. If your line, whoops, I thought I undid it. There we go. If your line is more than 45 degrees and turn towards horizontal, then it's going to go horizontal. If it's going to be less than that, then it will go vertical. You know what I mean? It has to be one way or the other. So we really have to get that closer to horizontal first before we do make it horizontal. Okay? All right. So we've got three lines that are vertical, three lines that are horizontal. Now, I'm going to show you a little trick that I turned off my sketch constraints in this sketch. I'm not sure if they'll be showing up for you or not, but I'm going to go ahead and turn on show constraints, and it will now show you what constraints have been applied to that. All right, so these three lines we're going to make parallel to each other, but neither horizontal nor vertical. So I think what we'll do is we'll make these two lines parallel to this one. Now, the order that you click matters. I believe that the second one you click, we're going to test that right now, is the one that you're making the other parallel to. So we're going to click this guy that looks like two parallel lines. Click on the first, and let's see if this does it the way I want it to. And the second, nope, it made the second to the first. So I'm going to undo that. Whoops, went too far. Make that horizontal again. All right, so we're going to make this, we're going to click on, this one's the king. I'm going to click on it first. So we're going to click there, click on this first. Oh, I did horizontal, excuse me. Let me try that again. Okay, we're doing parallel. Click here, click there. There we go. So whatever you click on first will stay. The other one will go to it. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. Click that, and we have now three parallel lines. Now, I don't know what happened with, I must have undone show constraints. So again, we can show all of these. All right, now over here, I think I want to make like a nose cone for a rocket. This is going to be a little bit more complicated. So first of all, I'm going to have to do a few things here. We're going to have to use the tangent constraint. Tangent makes either two arcs tangent to each other, or circles is just a 360-degree arc, or it will make a line tangent to an arc or circle. So we're going to click on that tangent line. We're going to click on the circle first because I want it to stay there and bring this line to it. So click on the circle, click on the line. Notice that little tangent shows up. Click on the circle, click on the line. Okay. Now, I can adjust the size of my circle right now, hit escape to get out of this, okay, and it will you'll see it will stay that way, that with those lines being connected there. Now, a couple things that I need to have happen. I want to make sure that this is symmetrical, right? So a couple ways of doing that is, let's do it the first way. We're going to take our 2 points down here and make them horizontal to each other. Click that, click that. Now those 2 points are held horizontal to each other. We can take our trim tool, our scissors, cut out this and that, okay? And now we can make these two lines equal to each other, equal constraint, and I'm going to make that line equal to that line, okay? Now, that should be all symmetrical because these are lined up, okay? And we can actually adjust the size of this now to whatever we want or fix it in place. Now, if I wanted to extrude that whole thing, I can go L for line command, go from one line to the other, and it's going to fill in that whole thing. Now, there's another way of doing this. So what I'd like you to do is go hover over these two, and you'll see them highlight those two constraints right there. You have to make sure that you hover over and not on the line, delete them. Okay, I'm going to show that again. So again, I'm not deleting the line, I'm deleting the constraint. Right click, delete. Okay, now we can line this point up with the midpoint of this line, but it won't show up when we go to do that. When we go horizontal, it won't show that right now, which is honestly a little frustrating about the program to me. But we can create our own midpoint by creating a point, create point. We're going to hover over that line until that little triangle shows up. And that's where the midpoint of that line is. Now, if you'll notice currently, that thing can move around. Well, it's staying in place, but it's not really locked down. Horizontal or vertical constraint, and we'll make this point in the middle vertical to that point. Okay? And that also does the same thing and makes that symmetrical. All right, let's move on, and we'll make some Mickey Mouse ears. So first of all, I want to make sure that everything's straight, right? So one of the things that we can do is we can make these two horizontal to each other. So let's do that. That point horizontal to that point. Okay, now they're horizontal no matter where I move them. Okay, they will stay horizontal to each other. And we're going to leave this big circle in place. You can kind of play with the size of it. Use the tangent constraint. Click on the largest circle first, then the small circle. Whoa. Now, I haven't made those equal in size, so notice that's kind of getting weird in size, and that's okay. We can fix it. Tangent constraint again. Again, we want to click on the largest circle first, then the smallest one. Notice it made it huge, but that's okay. We can, again, grab that and move it around. Ooh, although things are getting weird. All right. Now we'll do a few things to make this not be weird. One is, once we know kind of what size we want this guy to be, we can either dimension it using D, or we can just fix this in place. Notice all these lines are blue because they're not referenced to the origin point, which is way down here. So they're all going to stay blue unless I fix something or dimension it, meaning I can change its size or location. But one of the ways we can fix that is this fix button. I can either fix this center point in place or I can fix the entire circle in place. So I'm going to fix that entire circle, which makes the size and location be where I want it to be. If I hit escape, that should turn black. I'm not sure why it's green. I have never seen that before. That's a little weird. I wonder if that means that it's not referenced to the center point. That might be new. All right. Now let's make the two ears equal to each other. That equal to that. Now they're going to be the same size. So regardless if I change the size of them, they will stay equal to each other. And now when you grab one of the circles and points, it's a little tricky right now. Should be able to grab one and move it around. We can get it to a certain point. All right. Now to control that angle, let's do this. We're going to make a line from this point to that point and that point to that point. Line command, circle midpoint, there to over here. Now, let's take those two lines, click on them to highlight them. You have to hold the control button down. Right click. We're going to make those a construction line by switching from normal to construction. So if we were to extrude, that won't be seen. And finally, D gets you your dimension, and make this from click on one line, click on the other line to an angle of your choosing. I'll just make it, 85 degrees. You can choose to do whatever you want to make those now. This is perfectly symmetrical because these two are lined up and I've got an angle set and I've got circles tangent to circles. All right, moving on. I've got 4 points here, and I'm going to make those points into a square using 2 different methods. So let's start by clicking L or the line command. Got to hit escape first to get out of that command. L for line, and we're going to connect those 4 points together. All right, 2 different ways of doing this. One is we're going to make a vertical line out of that and a horizontal line out of that. Now, because this is vertical and this is horizontal, that's a 90-degree angle. Finally, we can make a perpendicular constraint between this angle and that angle, and between this angle and that angle. And now we know that we're a square or a rectangle at this point, because this and this are perpendicular to each other. They have to be. This and this are perpendicular, this and this are perpendicular. Now, to make it a square by definition has all equal sides, all equal angles. Click equal, we'll make that equal to that. I always tend to like to go to the same spot when using an equal constraint, that equal to that. And if I do this again and click this equal to this, it should say I'm over constraining the sketch. Now you'll see that little equal sign turned red. Now I'm in the way right now. It says an error down here. Sketch geometry is over constrained. If you get that message, don't ignore it and just do it anyway. Just get out of there and understand that you shouldn't have made that happen. All right. So now we have a square. We can adjust the size of the square, hitting escape, okay, and the location of the square, but it will remain a square. All right, over here, let's make an equilateral triangle. Now this is where I wanted to show you. I already put in a constraint. I did it on purpose. So let's say that I want to start by making that line horizontal. Computer's being a little laggy. Horizontal constraint on that line. Okay. Now, if if I want to make an equilateral triangle, watch what happens if I start dragging this around or dragging that around. Well, it's that's staying. It's not doing what I wanted it to do. I wanted to show that this line, when they stay parallel to each other. So let's go ahead and do that. I'll use the equal constraint and make my base equal to a side and a side equal to a side. And you'll notice that this line kind of bounced along with this line because it's held parallel to it. If I didn't want that to be that way, again, we've already worked on deleting constraints. Highlight the constraint that you don't want, not the line, the constraint, and delete it. And then we can move things around the way we want to move them. All right, so have this line obviously not parallel to that other edge. Let's make this a little bigger, move things around. All right, so we have an equilateral triangle. Down here, what I'd like you to do is make a trapezoid, and you're going to do this of yourself. You're going to make an asymmetrical trapezoid by moving things around the way that you want them to be. And by the time you're done, this should be a trapezoid that is symmetrical from right to left. Using the skills that we've done, you're going to do that. Finally, in the space over to the right of the trapezoid, we're going to put all these skills together and we're going to make a crank for the automata that's coming up. So let's start by making a couple of circles. We'll make a circle here, and let's, it's going to be a little smaller than I had expected. So I think maybe I'll use the skills. No, I take it back. We'll make it the right size. I'll be able to see it. Okay, so we're going to start by making a couple circles. One of them will be 3/4 of an inch, 0.75. And so I'm defining the size of that circle, but not really the location. Then we're going to make another circle somewhere over here. Now, I want to show you something. When I hover over that point and drag out, see that blue line? That shows me that I am horizontal, but it does not create a horizontal constraint. So if you do this, click and say, okay, over here, I want another smaller circle. And let's make it 5/16, 5/16. Now that did line it up while I made it, but I can still take this and move it around because it's not constrained. So let's make a horizontal constraint between this point and that point, which it just did. Okay. All right. Now it's a little tricky to get the lines right. So first of all, we're going to dimension D, or click the dimension command from the center point to the center point. And let's make that 1.25, 1 1/4 inches. All right. So now we need to make some lines. We're making kind of a little crank thing that are going from one point to the other. Watch carefully. We're going to have to be coincident. Now, coincident happens a lot when we're connecting two things together. In fact, let's show you how that works by making our line a little bit up off. So a little to the right of the center point there, we're going to go here, okay, and make another one just to the left of the center point over there. So you've got a line that looks like this. Now, to hook that line onto here, if you didn't do it, we can use this thing called coincident. Coincident connects things together at one point. So we're going to say, I want that point connected to that line, and I want that point connected to that line. All right, now you'll notice that they can move around. It's not quite where it's tangent. So next thing we're going to do is make this tangent. Tangent. This line to that circle and this line to that circle. Those tangent lines show up. Now we could also have made a line where we automatically, that little X means we're making that coincident. Now if you hover over enough, notice that that little tangent shows up, which means I am making that line tangent there. Okay, but I didn't make it tangent over here. So we got to pay attention to that stuff. Make sure all those constraints are showing up. All right. Now, if I fix one point in place, this should turn black, or maybe it's going to be green like that other one. So let's try that. Let's fix and just fix this point in place. There we go. Now it's doing what I wanted it to do, which means everything's constrained. Okay, I can't fix various things or pull them around because they're already locked down in place. All right, next thing we're going to do is we're going to create a little kind of jaggedy thing that fits onto the spindle to make this thing prevent from spinning. So let's make a couple of concentric circles. We're going to make one about, let's make that 0.5. Take that back. If you already made it, double click on that. And let's make it 5/16, which is the size of the spindle that's going to be there, but I want it a little bit bigger than that. So let's make it plus 0.02. Make this authentic. Okay. And now we're going to make another one inside. Let's make another circle. That is 5/16 minus, let's do that same amount, 0.02. Okay. Now we have an inside and an outside circle that we're going to make a little jaggedy edge with. Let's draw a box around both of these to highlight them. Right click, we're going to make them construction lines because I don't want them to be seen. All right, let's zoom way in. Now we're going to use our constraints to make a pattern. So line command. Notice there's a couple little spots in here that make things concentric. We're going to go from concentric to that point, concentric to this line. And let's go ahead and let that little 90-degree angle stay. Now, one thing we'll notice is that this little center point is not lined up. Notice it can move around and it will change things. So for us to make sure that that's going to be symmetrical, we're going to use our vertical constraint. Say I want that point and my midpoint lined up. And I really wish my computer would do what I asked. Okay. Now, last thing is, notice that this still is weird. So think about how you can fix that. Hopefully you figured it out. Equal constraint to make that line equal to that line. Okay, and notice it did turn black because it has to be in that point. Can't mess with anything else. Okay. And finally, we're going to take this by dragging a box around it, and we're going to create a circular pattern of these two lines. My center point is this, and let's make, I don't know, let's just see what it looks like if we make like 12. I like the way that looks. Probably could make more, but that's okay. All right. Now I'm going to have to turn back on this circle because it is going to be part of this. This is going to be a little bit tricky. We're going to take this circle and make it normal. And we're going to have to pick some things. All right, so we're going to extrude this a couple of times. First of all, let's, before you start extruding this, what I'd like to do, I know this is kind of a mess in here, and it's hard to see, but I can tell that there's tangent constraints and stuff. You've got your trapezoid that you made. Take a picture of this, and that's what you're going to turn in for constraints. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to finish this guy, and we're only going to extrude this. We're not going to extrude anything else that's in this sketch. Doesn't matter that it's there. Okay, zoom in and out, see where I am. We're going to extrude. You got to zoom in a little bit so you can see what we're doing. We're going to extrude because we're going to have to select these little dudes here. We probably could have taken the trim tool and trimmed them out, but this is going to be easy enough. We'll select all of those. We'll select this circle. We'll select this, but we're going to leave this not selected. Pull this outward a little bit. Let's go to 0.25. And now we've got this part of our crank. We're going to make something actually very similar to this for the actual automata, but I need the part that we can actually crank. So next thing is we're going to turn back on our sketch by clicking the eyeball, expand sketches, turn on the eyeball for sketches, and now we're going to extrude just this part that we didn't extrude before out to about, I don't know, let's just go to 1. All right, and let's turn back off the sketches and take a picture of that. I'm going to turn that in. If you want to, you can fillet edges and make it a little bit smoother, make it a different color if you have time, and we'll turn that dude in. All right, so this has been the lesson on geometric constraints and building a crank arm for the automata in Fusion 360. Good job. See you next time.